Good morning, afternoon, and evening, wherever you are, and welcome to NerdTube. And it's back, baby. Dark Side of the Ring, season 6. Can you fucking believe it? We have 6 seasons of this stuff, and we're going back to an old favorite in episode 1. Something that's been talked about in so many documentaries over the last 20 plus years, 25 years over, 27 years
Almost,
ago.
yeah.
This match was, which is incredible. But it's the infamous second Hell in the Cell match um, during the duration of this particular match, and
But
it was between
undoubtedly one of the
Undertaker
most
and
famous.
yeah, undoubtedly one of the most replayed moments of all time, and it was Undertaker versus Mick Foley, Mankind's version of Mick Foley, and obviously all the spots that happened. But overall, I would say that this is probably a Mick Foley episode of Dark Side of the Ring to a degree. And usually, the Dark Side of the Ring, in my humble opinion, fellas, is a show that's kind of supposed to really talk about the dark side of the ring. But this was very much a documentary episode, but it was very well done. I will say that. I'll give it its dues. In my opinion, not worthy of Dark Side, but definitely well documented, especially something that we've known about for over 25 years. Cheeto, Jose, welcome to the show. Cheeto, what did you think of this episode?
I actually really enjoy. I thought going into this, I would be like, oh, okay, so it's the Hell in a Cell. We've already heard a lot of this stuff, but honestly, the way they did it, and honestly, I don't know if I've ever heard from Mick Foley's wife about that night. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think I've ever really. They don't really talk that much about it, and
the kids and everything.
The what?
The kids as well, and
yeah, the kids. I really kind of wish that they would have had Taker on. I know Mark Calloway wouldn't probably go on there just because of his bromance with Vince McMahon, which is very sad, but I know he did have like an audio obligations.
I think he's got like contractual things, and if you're a WWE guy, like if you're still a WWE guy,
isn't he on is he on that new show, the Legends
LFG?
show? Yeah. I haven't watched
it. He's a lifer, dude. That guy will be working for the WWE until he's in the fucking ground.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
But so no, I really thought that this was a great episode. I really thought that you're right. It is not a proper Dark Side of the Ring, in my opinion. But at the same time, I did not dislike this episode at all.
Yeah, I agree. Jose.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say that if you're a WWE fan and you've like watched the documentary aspect of the Hell in the Cell, you're not really going to learn anything new here aside from Mick Foley's family perspective. That's pretty much the only new thing that we heard about it was his wife Colette and daughter Noelle and son Mickey. They talked about the Hell in the Cell, and they talked about all the things that their dad had gone through with like CTE and all this other stuff. So if you know about Mick Foley, you're not really going to learn anything new here, but it was still an overall enjoyable episode to kick off the season.
And it's kind of sad because like this is kind of the first time I've heard Mick Foley talk probably very bluntly about his future outlook on his mental ability and stuff like that, because with the CT and everything, like, the WWE wouldn't allow him to say stuff like that on a WWE thing. He just wouldn't. So it was kind of also I was kind of shocked that when he started talking, I'm like, this is literally not a WWE thing. So obviously he's going to talk about this. And I'm very glad that they let him be frank about it. Be like, look, and he even admitted, he said, I did this to myself. I'm going to have to pay the price. But yeah, I think it was very well done, because it was just like, look, they really went the angle of, look, this is not your WWE documentary fed bullcrap. This is, we're letting Mick Foley tell and his family tell it like it is.
Yeah, exactly. So I was wondering how they were going to stretch out this episode, because as fascinating as this match was and all the spots and bumps in this match, to stretch it out to 45 minutes would be very difficult. But once again, as I said earlier, they did talk about Mick Foley's career pretty much, and some of the stuff that happened afterwards, and having to raise the bar after all that. But I unfortunately never got the luxury of watching this match as it happened. I'm not sure if you guys did.
Did
you watch it?
I could tell you
not. I was watching WCW at the time.
Yeah, I could give you my perspective.
Please.
You got to keep in mind, I was 10 when this match happened. As a 10-year-old kid, like, seeing this, I didn't think that Mick Foley died, but I legit thought he broke his back. Like I was like, oh shit, he broke his back, and then the choke slam through the cell. I was like, oh my god, that's it. Please get up, please get up, please get up. That was my initial thoughts when I saw the spots, and then the things with the tacks. I was like, okay, this is without a doubt the most violent match that I'll ever see. And to this day, almost 30 years later, it's definitely like top 5 most violent matches you'll ever see.
Definitely within the WWE, because unfortunately with is it Smash death match wrestling and all that, which is really ridiculous, in my opinion. I don't like it, but watching this, for the WWE, this is about as hardcore as WWE ever got, and they never really, replicated some of the stuff. Now let's just get to some of the spots. So the first thing is, for a start, the Hell in a Cell is basically a giant version of a steel cage with a roof, which is what Jim Cornette mentioned.
Well, and there's the outside the ring port, so it's actually expanded out and down to the floor.
Yeah,
now the cell itself.
I was going to say, for clarification, that cage is 16 feet high. The old Hell in the Cell was 16 feet high. I don't know. No, the old one was 16 feet. I think the more modern one is 20. I think the more modern one with the chain link all around it, that's like a 20 foot Hell in a Cell.
I'm very happy you mentioned the old and the new, because this cage is fucking rickety. Now, when you look at the modern day version of the Hell in a Cell, it is a big square block. It comes down, it's solid. There's not much give way in it, and they've over the years they've stopped fan anticipation of people climbing the top. I don't think they really want to do that, but for a little while, when you had Hell in a Cell, you're fucking going up there, so. And at the very beginning, Foley is up there and Taker's up there, and they're big boys. Foley's not a light guy. Taker, being as tall he is, he's going to be quite heavy as well. And the way the cage, the cell is at the top, is held together by fucking wire, zip ties and stuff like that.
Yeah, zip ties. I was like, I didn't know about the zip ties. Like, they're talking about there only being zip ties up there. I'm like, what? Zip ties?
To hold those men, those men.
Yeah.
And if you watch the first one, okay, like Shawn was probably, 230 at the time. Taker's got probably about 100-pound advantage. There were no zip ties on that Hell in the Cell. So I don't know what they did with the first incarnation of the Hell in the Cell, but they obviously
were they on top of the cell at one point? I don't remember.
Yes, they were.
Michaels one.
Shawn took a gorilla press slam on the top of it.
Oh, okay.
And they didn't have like zip ties, to my knowledge, in the very first Hell in a Cell. But with the second one, you got almost 600, 700 pounds up there. And that cage is going to give away. And thank God, to an extent, that they both didn't go through it.
Yeah, which was shocking that they didn't, to tell you the truth. But you can see Taker was being smart. He was trying to stand on the beams, which were,
And I apologize for this, but I wanted to add also in context for people that don't know, Taker had a broken foot going into this match.
Wow, I had no idea about that.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
He had to climb the cell as well. Mm-hmm. But then, very early in one of the spots of the moment happened very early. I mean, they're too busy trying to, not fall through the fucking cage, but then immediately Foley gets thrown off the cell onto the announce table. Now, I'll be very honest with you. Watching this spot, it doesn't make me scream as much, because it could have it went as good as it could fucking go. Like Foley landed perfectly on that table.
He even said that. He's like, he said, I landed perfectly on that table.
Had he been a couple of inches off, it would have been worse, because it would have been, he could have landed on the mat, the concrete, or the fans. And either way, if any of those circumstances happened, that would have been it. There would have been no way Foley would have wrestled after that.
Especially if he hit the fans, that would have been it. Game over.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so mentioning that as well is very important, because like the precision required, you can't, for the announcers can't necessarily give away that they're going to have Mick Foley dive bombing at them from fucking 20 feet in the air. So they can't do that. At the same time, the fans have to be taken into account, but you can't have Mick Foley landing on them either. You can't have him landing on the barricade or all of that. You can't hit the floor. With him flat back on the floor will fucking kill him. He needs that table to break his fall. And all of that. It was brilliant. And imagine just, and this is the funny thing, because what this documentary gave me was perspectives I never really thought of. Like, imagine you're Jim Ross and the King, and you're looking up and there's fucking Mick Foley coming down, and you got to get off your chair as quickly as possible. Before he hits you.
And they had no idea this was coming. Like, so one of the other perspectives that I really appreciated with this episode was the fact that, that we also got the from Gerald Briscoe and Pat. I don't know, maybe not Pat Patterson, but like Al Snow, like all these people that were in the back and like the producers' chairs and stuff like that.
Yeah, the referee.
Yeah, the referee. Like I enjoy, as I said, this is the stuff you don't get from as I said, this was a good documentary because it wasn't a WWE documentary on it. So that I appreciate. Is it a dark-sided episode? But it still was a really good documentary outside of the WWE box.
Yeah. Exactly, and what happened to him? I mean, it's funny because the stuff that happened is weird. That's the bump people remember the most, but it's the bumps that happened afterwards, which was which was the worst ones. But because of what happened, they had to check on him. They took him backstage.
They had to raise the cage. They had to.
Yeah. While the Undertaker's on it.
Yeah, they had to. Here's one of the rare things too that they didn't talk about. This was one of the rare times Vince actually broke character, because Vince wouldn't go out there unless he needed to go out there. He legit had to go check on Mick Foley and be like, dude, what the fuck? Is he dead? Like, is he alive? And then they had to raise the cage with the Undertaker on it just so they could stretcher him out. And then everyone was telling him, like, dude, you're done. Stay down. Stay down. Mick was like, nope, fuck that shit. I got to finish this match.
Yeah, and this was a match that was just working on the fly. And I feel like sorry for Undertaker, because like he probably thinking, you know what, we got away with this one. That's it. Like, he's not dead. We pulled off one of the most historical moments has just been created here. Let's just not continue anymore. But no, Mick Foley comes back for more. And he fucking climbs the cage again. And he's on top. And this time round, he gets choke slam.
You can't get any worse.
Yeah, and he lands flat hard onto the mat, but unfortunately for him, a chair, I don't know where this chair was it on top of the cell?
Yes.
Yeah, he took that chair up there with him at the beginning of the match.
Yep, it was
okay.
And then what happened was, do you remember those old WWF matches? Those old WWF matches used to be stiffer than fuck. Like, when you got slammed on them, that shit would hurt. It didn't start to get soft until Vince started taking bumps.
His tanky body, tanky body saved him. Like in a way, it might be like he's all this mass he's got kind of protected. I'm being very layman in that. I'm being an undereducated guess, so to speak. But regardless, that chair came down on his face as he bumped. He probably hit his head. The chair's coming down. He's going up from the bounce, and he cuts open his face, and his tooth ends up his fucking nose from going through his air vent, and all of that shit, and all of that, and what does Mick Foley do? He uses that moment to have that famous visual of him smiling in the camera with blood coming out of his nose and his tooth coming out of his nose and. Yeah,
I had no idea that he knew that was happening. Like, I thought it was just the right place, the right time. Like Mick's like, no, I was like, I knew that this would be a moment, so I'm like, how is he even conscious right now? Yeah. And he's planning spots.
And here's the funny thing: Mick Foley throughout that match was on autopilot. He was legit out of it. Like, it was like he was there, but he wasn't there. If that makes sense.
Yep. And from that moment, and by the way, I want to continue talking about this match, but I need to step back a little bit because I want people to understand who truly Mick Foley is. This guy, he is a bit of an exhibitionist to a degree, but he's a good person. I never think bad of him, but he's a bit of an exhibitionist, and he realized that if he can't get people to admire him, he'll get a reaction out of people by freaking them out, and he realized that at a young age, and he took that into his wrestling. But going back to this match now, once again, medics and everyone are in there again, to check on him to make sure that he's okay. And this is where the ad lib comes in. Now, Taker, I don't know if he's playing heel or face or whatever.
He was the baby face.
Yeah, well, as much of a baby face as he is, there's Terry Funk in there, and Terry Funk is trying and the ad libbing and stuff, and he tells Taker, beat the fuck out of me. You know what I mean? And he does.
Yeah, he's like, buy time. Foley's in and out of consciousness. Buy time. I'm like, what?
Yep. And if you watch that choke slam, it's the lightest choke slam anyone's ever done. That choke slam to Terry Funk is the lightest choke slam I've ever seen.
It's funny, but you don't need to give Terry Funk a light choke slam. That guy could take it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? He was. People don't realize who Terry Funk is. He was Mick Foley before Mick Foley. So.
But I mean, they didn't have a chance to practice the spot and stuff, so I can see why. Like, I mean, if he could have practiced the spot, then I would have been like, oh yeah,
I think
if he
Taker's
practiced that spot and it wasn't good, but if it was on the fly, I think that.
Taker's are probably thinking, please, man, I don't want a manslaughter charge. You're probably thinking that. The emotion he must be going through, knowing that he's almost because as wrestlers, you're supposed to take care of each other in the ring, and on 2 occasions now, he's almost killed his dance partner. But regardless, he has that moment with Terry Funk and everything else, and once again, Mick Foley's taken to the back, but he comes back. And then he goes under the ring and he pulls out fucking thumbtacks. And this was the first. We call it in England we call it drawing pins. And this was the first time.
Freaking UK.
This particular thing was. This was the first time this particular thing was used in the WWE.
Yep.
Yeah, it was never used before, and he's pouring it everywhere and stuff like that. And he gets lost, and then Undertaker, who's unfortunately, he's still giving Mick more punishment. Rides him in there and tombstones him.
Yeah, Mick got backdropped, choke slammed, and then got up to do the tombstone. And here's a nice little subtle touch. Mick kicks out at 3 1/4. If you watch the very end of that, he does that half little kick out just to be like, I'm still fighting, brother.
He rolling around in those fucking things.
Yep. On purpose. He did it on purpose because it's not like he just was like doing it naturally. Like he said, he was rolling around in it to get all the tacks in his back, just to make sure, for that visual of having all the tacks in his back. I'm like, I appreciate Mick Foley for who he is and what he has done, but God, nobody ever do this again.
Yeah.
Like, like John Moxley, you need to fucking stop.
Like,
I'm talking right to you, John Moxley.
I don't need blood in my wrestling. I really don't. If it happens, it happens, but don't force it.
And here's the thing too. When Rob Van Dam is telling you, mind you, Rob Van Dam is a guy that used to do the Van Terminator with a chair and broke his fucking ankle doing that move with the chair, tells you that you've gone too far. You've gone too fucking far. And
the funny
Moxley
thing is, I'm glad you mentioned Van Dam, because here's a guy who does hardcore wrestling, but he's never known for bleeding. He does all this crazy shit, but he's not a bleeder. And once again, I have no problems with blood if it's an accident, somebody cuts themselves,
or when it calls for it on the rare occasion.
Yeah, but even today, I'm like, I don't like. Ever since Eddie Guerrero bladed himself against JBL and the way he did it, he overdid it. He really. I'm just like, you know what? It's just not worth it.
We don't need no more Ric Flairs. Like Ric Flair bladed himself with everything.
Motherfucker got shot by the Big Show and started bleeding. That make sense.
Exactly. So.
It's so true.
Yep.
But yeah, it's funny because Foley did all the work in that match, and Undertaker gets the fucking gets the free and wins.
Yeah, but still, Mick Foley's the one who won that match. Let's be real.
Won.
Yeah. No, I agree because whenever you think of that match, you think more of Foley than you do of Undertaker. And the funny thing is, in my personal opinion, is that when I think of Mick Foley, I don't necessarily think about that match. I just think of him being a hardcore legend and that match being one of the many strings in his bow, but that's not Mick Foley in a nutshell.
Yeah.
For me,
I think I think of like Mick Foley versus Shawn Michaels at Mind Games, the first time we really got to see Mick Foley go crazy in the WWF. I think of that match. I think of the match with my favorite Mick Foley match is the one that they didn't cover, is the one against Randy Orton at Backlash 04. I could watch that match and go, oh my God.
Wasn't the match against him? The match with him and Edge was pretty good too, if I remember.
At Mania 22, that was also a good match.
I remember that match. I thought it was pretty good. Like you could tell Foley was kind of aged at that point, and his body was like, yeah, you can't keep doing this. And again, I don't want Foley back in the ring ever. Like he's done. Like I love that he's doing, and I know he knows that, but I'm like, I love that he's doing comedy. I love that he's doing. I don't mind him being involved in wrestling, but like, no more bumps. No, you've served your time, brother. Like, you've served your time.
You're done.
So it was, like I said, it was interesting that when they started talking about this match, and then we still had plenty of time left in the episode. So it ended up becoming a Mick Foley documentary, so to speak. And Mick Foley, he got rewarded for this match. He ended up being WWE champion on Monday Night Raw, which is a rarity. Usually, if the title gets traded on Raw, it's because somebody failed a drug test.
The night
not in this particular,
the night that WCW unofficially lost the war was when
I was just going to bring that up, was the fact that Tony Schiavone mentioned over on
on orders from Eric Bischoff. We have to preface that.
Yeah, on orders from Eric Bischoff.
Yep.
Spoiled the outcome of that match where he won the WWF title.
Yep.
And right then and there, everybody switched to Raw. Like the ratings plummeted for Nitro and skyrocketed for Raw. Like you can see it.
God, it's crazy. Who knows what would have where the landscape would have happened if, first of all, Mick Foley didn't win the belt and it just was a regular episode, and secondly, if he did win the belt, then Bischoff never bragged about it, and
WCW would have won that night. WCW would have won the night.
They had a pretty decent main event too, didn't they? Who was that? Do you remember what it was?
It was some guy that used to say, like, let me tell you something, brother, and then some guy that would tear his quad, eating a bowl of Cheerios. And like, it was the greatest move of all time. He just like finger poked Nash, and then Nash goes down.
That wasn't that night, but no, it might have been. Was it Hogan? It was Hogan versus somebody.
Hogan and Nash. It was the finger poke of doom. That was what it was.
Wait, that was that
really?
night.
That was that night.
On the same night as Foley.
Yep.
Oh my God.
That's why WCW unofficially.
God.
That was the night that WCW unofficially lost.
God, talk about a double whammy, because you're insulting the fans with that sort of match, and at the same time you're showing history with Foley winning on Raw. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, wow.
I'm not even gonna lie. I know I switched the channel because I liked Mick Foley. Like, even though I wasn't a fan of like the extreme hardcore, I liked him as a babyface, and I liked that he loved that. You could tell he loved the business.
Yeah, Foley was a fan,
and I think he pretty much stayed babyface for the rest of his career after that.
He went heel. He went heel in 06 briefly, but like nobody really remembers that.
I mean, it's probably going to be like Cena's heel run. Like, nobody's going to care. Nobody's going to remember it. It was underwhelming. Kind of like
this was 2000. If this was 2012, it'd be a different conversation. But yeah, in terms of John Cena.
So we're going to go on to now the moment which, in my opinion, was like the most hardcore moment for Mick Foley, and I have so much disdain for The Rock over this, because he got fucking carried away, and I'm glad in a way they didn't necessarily show it here on Dark Side, because I saw that segment, and if it was The Rock really Foley, to a degree, he let himself get hit all the time, but come on, Rock, like you didn't have to, you didn't have to do what you did. Like,
you could have did 5 and that would have been enough. You could have laid in 4 chair shots, 5 chair shots at most, and that's it. But he laid it in like 12, 13, 14 fucking times.
And we're talking The Rock's, and like The Rock was, all of these wrestlers, they're strong guys, and he's not hitting him lightly.
No,
he is fucking hitting him, and I remember,
and he's handcuffed.
He's handcuffed behind his back in that segment,
and what
he
they
cracked
didn't
his skull open.
And what they didn't show was when The Rock punched Mick Foley into the circuit board. That could have legit killed Mick Foley.
Exactly.
Because The Rock and Mick Foley were on the stands. Rock punches Mick Foley. Mick kind of does an elbow drop into the circuit board, and the lights went out.
And Mick Foley's children are there, and they're watching this, and look, no, fans are not stupid. We understand the kayfabe, we understand, but there's no kayfabing this.
Mm-mm.
I would have never let my kids. I'd have never let my kids be there. Like,
Nope.
I kind of think that's a bad on Foley and his wife, where I'm like, okay, look, you want to have my wife at ringside, okay, that's fine.
But kids are not allowed there. Kids.
Yeah, I would be like I don't want my kids watching something like I wouldn't want my kids watching something that like that for some other people. Like, I don't want my kids, especially that little. Like, they were little.
They were like 5? 3, 4 years old. Yeah.
They were young.
Yeah. And then okay, kind of segueing, Noelle, not to fast forward, but she says she has no memory of her dad wrestling because of this.
It was
match.
it's traumatizing. That would have traumatized you as a kid. Seeing, like, I don't think Rock realizes what he was doing. He was whacking this guy in the head consistently. I fucking hated that match.
I can't.
It wasn't
watch
even a match. I don't even know if to call it a match. It was
dumb because they did isn't that the one they did the whole recording thing where he said they took the
recording. I quit.
It was like it was an I quit match, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yep.
And then I think the only reason why The Rock won was because they had the recording, and I'm like, that's a terrible
way to get out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like he legitimately cracked his skull open. By the way, I don't think people realize. I remember this from a different documentary, and he was bleeding everywhere, had to have stitches and stuff like that. And you're causing massive brain trauma to a guy, and it disgusted me that match. As crazy as the Hell in a Cell one was, that was the moment that really fucked. That was I'm disgusted. The guy's handcuffed and you're whacking him over the head consistently. For me, there's no. I don't give a fuck how tolerant Mick Foley is. It's disgusting.
And here's the crazy thing. And here's the thing: what the fuck did The Rock do in that match? I don't think The Rock took anything impactful. I really don't.
Well, and I don't, and that's the problem with Mick Foley is like, neither did Undertaker.
Yeah.
And I don't blame these guys for being like, look, I'm not taking those kind of bumps, because I don't blame them for saying that. Like, I agree, but Mick Foley unfortunately was willing to do it, and of course the WWE and Vince McMahon were there to let that happen.
Yeah, if I could give the biggest criticism to Mick Foley, he's got too big a heart. That'd probably be the one big thing I could say about Mick Foley is like, dude, you got too big a heart.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But, that obviously led to the career that is he in the Hall of Fame?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, deservedly so. And obviously he had 2 other matches after that against Orton and Edge to put those guys over as well, which is what he was always going to do. I think he played Cactus Jack in both of those. I think it was Mick Foley in one and Cactus Jack in the other.
I think with Edge, I think it was just Mick Foley, but he wore like
he wore the cactus attire. He wore the
cactus attire, but he was still Mick Foley,
And he was Cactus Jack when he fought Orton, but both are brutal fucking matches.
And I mean, he fought Triple H a couple times. Was that
the Garden and the okay? So Triple H was first because they had that street fight at Royal Rumble 2000, which I'm surprised they didn't cover that. And then they had the No Way Out Hell in the Cell match. The one thing about that match is Mick Foley took a backdrop ass first through the canvas. Like the ring legit broke. If you go back and watch that
but I heard that was an actual spot. It was supposed to happen from what people have told me. But if you watch it, if you watch it though, when Mick Foley's head lands, he still lands on the hard part of the back of his head, because his body's all in the cushiony part. But unfortunately, his head still hits, I think, the back of the
hit the beam,
the hard part of the ring.
Because the ring, what a ring comprises of is metal, plywood, and then the mat sheet over it. That's all a ring is.
Yeah, and so he's had a lot, and then we just kind of focus more on Mick and the family and stuff like that. First of all, like, he's one of the nicest people in the industry. It's amazing for somebody who does what he does, to be the person that he is. Ginger and I hope Ginger is still in the chat. Ginger and I, we are very lucky to have seen Mick Foley in the flesh. in London when he came to do some comedy. He was trying to do stand-up comedy and stuff like that.
Okay.
And this was over 10 years ago now, I think, if Ginger's still here, when we went to watch that. And they had warm-up acts who are wrestling fans, like stand-up comedians who are warm. And honestly, we were laughing so much. I can't remember the jokes, but they were wrestling related in the stand-up comedy. Yeah, it was so funny.
I watched
it
his
was
specials
so
when the
yeah.
I watched his specials when the WWE Network were a thing, like when they did like the 20th anniversary of the Hell in the Cell, and Foley made light of it, and he was like, "I'm gonna drop an F-bomb, but I'm not gonna tell you when," because Mick Foley is one of those dudes who just doesn't swear, he doesn't cuss, and then he's like, "I'm Mick Foley, and I'm the dude that fell off the fucking cell," and he got like a huge pop out of that. Oh
And,
yeah,
Al
Snow,
it was a
that
great
was
show.
a highlight. That was a highlight
Yeah.
of this episode too. Was when Al Snow was introduced. He was like, "I'm Mick Foley's only friend," and like they like to rib each other, and that was so funny.
And the funny thing is, regarding Mick Foley, he wasn't really doing stand up, more storytelling.
Yeah.
Back it was such fucking 15, 16 years ago, Jin. That's crazy when we saw that. But yeah, so like I said, Mick Foley's bit was more of storytelling, but the warm up acts were hilarious. I was crying. I was fucking crying. It was so funny. Being jokes that you could really appreciate because it was to do with wrestling, and it was just spot on. I wish. Oh, I wish I could turn back time and relive that moment again. It was great. And just a tangent, just a tiny bit. There are wrestlers now who have got involved in stand up. I mean, Nick Nemeth,
and shit.
Dolph Ziggler, he's done that, but I can't find anything on YouTube. He's tried to get involved. When he was in the WWE as Dolph Ziggler, he was trying to do some stand-up comedy on the side.
Yep.
And I think even Undertaker's doing something similar as well. He's doing his one-man show, or dead man show, or some shit like that.
That's a WrestleMania weekend thing.
Yeah, and
no, he's doing that, but he's done a few other ones in the past.
Yeah, Taker. What Taker does is he goes around and he tells stories, kind of like how Jake the Snake is doing now. He's another one doing that, where he just goes around and he tells stories to people about what he used to do.
And a lot of the stories are usually them on the road or them backstage. It's usually stuff like that. Yeah, because he's shit. Okay, yeah, fair enough. I still want to see it though. I'm just curious because he was banging Amy Schumer for a bit, which is probably why he ended up getting the bug for it.
Who?
The bug literally.
Dolph Ziggler.
Dolph Ziggler.
Oh. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, but Amy Schumer mentioned that she was shagging him. I mean, it was funny because Dolph could get anybody he wants, and he's shagging Amy Schumer. Fair enough. All right.
I mean, was this after the de-thickening, or I mean, he might like them thick girls. You never know.
She might. Yeah, I think she's a little bit thick and stuff like that.
So I mean, and look, I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying, like, he might like them thick.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm being a bit misogynist. I do apologize, but I couldn't help but say that. So I apologize if I offended anyone. But just to tail end on this episode, what they are talking about is stuff that it does worry me because as much as I love Mick Foley, if all the head trauma he's taken, well, she was hot back then. Fair enough. All the head trauma he has taken over the years in every fucking company that he's worked for, it's going to affect him, and he's not getting any younger. I think he's in his late 50s.
Yeah, he's
maybe 60s.
I can find out.
There will be one day when we probably find out, like, that Mick Foley's been diagnosed with something, and like he just the Mick Foley we know will probably be disappearing. Because his brain will just probably start like not disintegrating, but like it will just start degenerating just because of all the trauma that it's induced. And I mean, I've seen it with patients of mine, and none of them have dealt with half the trauma, like head trauma that
quarter.
And the thing that I hope, not to talk bad, I really hope his wife and kids put him in a nursing home before that happens. I really do. I hope they put him in a retirement home.
I want WWE to take care of him.
Yeah, I don't want anyone to be in a nursing home because I work in nursing homes and I see how the staff treat people, and I'm like, no. And I get it. I'm not probably in a great nursing home, but I'm like, I agree with Zam. The WWE, like for all the money that that Mick has brought the WWE,
they could put him in a they need to put him somewhere. They need to put him in like a good facility where he knows he's going to get
either that or they just need to have a live-in caregiver.
Yep.
Yeah,
because that's what I worry about.
Yeah, they owe it to him. They genuinely, but that he brought the memories and moments. They fucking owe it to him, and they owe it to all the guys in the business, in my opinion, because what they put their bodies through.
Yep.
So for sure, they're doing that with the Undertaker and Shawn Michaels right now, who are lifers. But Mick Foley deserves some love as well. Yep. So this was a really good episode, in my opinion.
I agree, Ginger. Yeah, I agree.
Probably 59 and still cognitively sound. The next decade will be telling for his. Yeah, exactly. I remember when before I round things, I just remember prior to his match with Edge, that feud he had with Edge, and going into that Mania match, saying that Mick Foley turned into a big cuddly teddy bear, and honestly, that's where I like to think of him right now. He seems like a really cool guy, laid back guy, and I hope I just wish him the best, and I never want him to ever, not even for old time's sake, take a bump ever again.
Never.
Yeah,
don't ever. I mean, come back. Oh, go ahead.
I would rather have seen, to be honest, see Mick Foley be the comedy act with Mr. Sacco rather than him put his body on the line.
Yeah, I don't mind like him coming back being general manager, like the things that he did on the side. Even like I don't even know if I want him to be a trainer.
He was Santa Claus. He did the Santa Claus thing for WWE for a while,
Yeah,
which was awesome.
Yeah, but no, he never needs to take a bump again. We forgot the fact that he lost, in when he was in Japan or something, he lost his fucking ear.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This guy's gone through it, man. He deserves so much better. You could definitely tell his daughter takes out after his mum regarding the looks department. For fuck's sake, I couldn't believe that was his daughter. Mick Foley created that. Jesus Christ. Anyway, sorry if more misogyny. I do apologize. But yes, I thought this was, regardless of this not being your stereotypical dark side, and unfortunately, I think dark side is going this way because there's only so many horror stories they can unearth.
It's going down. I think I'm not going to be surprised if this season or next is the last, because it's like, where else can you go?
Once again, they need to focus on the big fish. I wouldn't mind a whole season documenting Vince McMahon and Hulk Hogan. Different areas of their life for the whole fucking season, because there is plenty of to go on right up to this day. With Hogan being booed at Raw and
Hogan would be a good one now.
Hogan would be great.
Yeah.
Sonny's another one. I know they briefly touched on her, but Tammy Sitch is another one they could touch on.
They did. I feel like the Chris Candido Tammy Cinch one was like that. That was mostly a Sonny episode. They barely talked about Candido.
Yeah, there's more they could do on Sonny. There's
really?
Much more they could do. Yeah. But Ludwig Borga's the next one, and I'm like, okay, that one I kind of know about Ludwig Borga.
I have no idea who that is.
Yeah. He was in
that's going to be an excellent episode.
Yeah,
I know. That's what I mean. I have no idea who it is.
Yeah, Ludwig Borga, because he's a Eastern European wrestler. I don't know if he's from the former Soviet Union or if he's from the Slavic countries like Poland or anything like that.
Well, with a name like Ludwig, I mean,
but he had associations with white supremacy. He had SS tattoos and stuff like that.
Man,
that's gonna be a proper dark side episode, and I do look forward to that particular one. But regarding people of today, I think maybe Shawn Michaels could do. There could be, and not just Shawn Michaels, but we did Marty Jannetty, didn't
Marty.
we?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, they did Marty Jannetty. So Shawn Michaels is there, and those are the moment, because the moment. Unfortunately for Marty Jannetty, at the moment Shawn Michaels left Marty Jannetty, and it was all politicking and stuff like that. But then you got the comeback story after his back injury, and it's been pretty much a home run. Borga was from Finland. Oh, fair enough, close enough. Because Finland, even though it's a Scandinavian country, is kind of Russian-y to a degree.
And I am going to go ahead and preface now, just so forewarning. The Daphne episode will be an absolute no-go for me. That is the one episode that I will not cover. I refuse to watch it because what happened to her was so sad and so damn tragic.
Oh, that's
And
concerning
that's
me,
going to be
but
like toward the end of the season when they do Daphne. Hers will be the most emotional
yeah.
episode. Let's see, who do we have this
I
season?
think,
I'm going to look it up.
I mean,
well, Muhammad
Vader.
Hassan. Oh my god, I can't wait for that one. That's
Yeah,
gonna be
Muhammad
great.
Hassan.
That's gonna be great.
Oh yeah, Muhammad.
Yeah.
You talking about Muhammad Hassan or Vader? You're waiting for
Muhammad Hassan.
But once again, Muhammad Hassan is part of that overall Vince McMahon thing where, like, there's so many episodes of Darkseid where there's a bit of Vince McMahon or there's a bit of Hogan involved, and you culminate those things and you get a fucking Hogan episode or you get a fucking Vince McMahon episode.
I know they could probably just do, like, if somebody did a supercut of all the things that involve Vince McMahon or Hulk Hogan, and they could just make whole seasons out of all of that. They'd cut stuff from all 6 seasons that involve Hogan and Vince and just put it into one season.
Sorry, go on.
The lightest, hardest one is going to be Vader because honestly, I can't really think of anything Vader did.
I think it's going to be the way Vader was treated behind the scenes, because Vader was a really nice and teddy bear, but it's like people treated him, especially Shawn Michaels.
Shawn Michaels was a dick. Yeah. Muhammad Hassan is probably my most anticipated. And here's the funny thing about Muhammad Hassan: none of this was his fault. Like he did nothing wrong. It was. I
always liked him. Like I always thought he was talented. Like when I'd watch his matches, I'd be like, I actually think he's, and then he won the title. I was like, all right, like I think this is a guy who deserves to get the title at least for a little while.
He should have beat Batista. He should have beat Batista at SummerSlam 05. I don't give a fuck what anyone says. I'm like, yeah, I would rather.
Well, that's what I think. Bobby Lashley should have beat John Cena at Great American Bash 07.
07.
I mean, there's a lot of things where people of color just aren't beating the super the super white guy. Although, Batista's a white guy. He's just super tan all the time. Yep. But but that's how Vince McMahon ran things. Like
he didn't half Filipino, actually. I think Batista.
Is he Filipino? Okay, well,
yeah, he's got Filipino. His mom's Filipino.
He's white enough for Vince McMahon. Let's put it that way.
And then Billy Jack Hayes is another one I'm looking forward to because that guy was fucking nuts. Going back to the 80s, that dude was
superstar
crazy.
Billy Graham.
Yeah,
he was the archetype to Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, he was basically what Dusty Rhodes and Hogan turned out later on to be.
Well, but you mentioned Hassan is like, unfortunately for him, he was shit wasn't his fault, and unfortunately that is with the WWE. When people are popular, they sometimes get punished. Damien Sandow, like if you can't see gold in Damien Sandow, there's something wrong with you. Regardless of, if you don't realize that this guy is like a top guy, and you don't take advantage of that, then there's something wrong with you. And then you got somebody like obviously Zack Ryder, who tried to make a name for himself,
got over on his own, and they didn't like that shit.
Hey, but they put over the great Khali.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it's funny because I think people like Damien Sandow and Zack Ryder, if they were around today at the ages that they were back then,
they'd be over like a motherfucker.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, they'd be over. I think the fans would appreciate them. Anyway, let's give this episode some marking. What are you going to give it, Cheeto?
Okay, so are we doing this as just like a documentary or as a Dark Side episode? Because there's really two. I'm gonna, as a documentary, I'm gonna give it a 9. I really enjoyed it. I got a lot of info here that I didn't have from because it's outside the WWE's well. As a Dark Side episode, it's kind of like a 5. It didn't really blow my mind, but as a documentary episode, it was really good. I really liked it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say as a Dark Side episode, it's gonna be like a 4. It was just all right. But as a documentary, it's easily one of the best you're going to see. It's easily going to get a 9.5 out of me.
9.5. I hate you.
Yep.
Oh, Batista is half Filipino, half Greek. Okay. Yeah. For me, I'm similar with you.
Half Greek
with you guys. I'm going to give this episode an 8. For me, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was really insightful. But as a documentary episode, it's weird without having to mark it in 2 different ways. But as a Dark Side episode, I thought it was actually a good Dark Side episode, but they had those Dark Side vibes in the episode, but
Yeah,
it
with the
wasn't telling
flashbacks
me
and the
in
kind of.
everything in the moment. And I always love seeing Jim Cornette on my screen and all of that. So I'm going to give it. I'm going to be quite generous with it. A 7, but.
Fair.
I just don't think that this is necessarily a Dark Side episode, but I want to see stuff which is fucked up. You know what I mean? That's what
but I
we
think
want
they've
from
kind of
Dark Side
ran that gamut. Besides Vince and Hogan,
Yeah.
I think they've run that. I think they've kind of run the whole gamut of all the people that just. I mean, and I'm sure that there's more stories out there, but is there enough substance there to?
Is they done Lex Luger, Elizabeth
I don't think
Angle,
they
and
have.
all of that?
Not yet, maybe.
Speaking of, congratulations to Lex Luger because he's making the Hall of Fame this year.
Yeah, about time.
Yeah. Giving it a 0 as there's zero chance
on Ginger, it's worth 45 minutes of your time.
Yeah,
honestly, it really
this
is
a good episode.
As I said, it's the first time I ever remember seeing like them talking to the kids and stuff like that. Like it's worth it for that. For me, it's worth it for that alone because I'm like, I don't think they've ever talked. Like I don't think I've ever seen them talk to the kids about that match. Like they've talked to Mick Foley to death about that match
and Undertaker.
But yeah, it's like with the wife and the kids and even some of the backstage hands at that point. Like I don't think WWE would never allow that, so it's like I think that this has all been protected for so long that it's finally like these people like Jim Ross and like Briscoe and Al Snow and all these people that were loyal to Vince. I think they're all going to start coming out of the woodwork now that Vince is technically done.
Yeah.
And they're going to start doing more of these interviews.
Yeah, because Vince has no power, no say. He'll never come back. There's no way.
Which is why, in a way, it's so important now to go after Vince, and make a full on, just dedicate a whole series to Vince and Hogan.
And here's my take. Season. Here's my take. You end with Vince McMahon. That's how Dark Side needs to end. If you're going out on a bang, you end with Vince McMahon.
No, I semi-agree. Yeah. I think Vince and Hogan are so big that they deserve more than one episode. You need multiple episodes, dude.
But I think it needs to.
I think he means the last season will be
the last season needs to be dedicated to Vince McMahon. Hogan could get his own season, and then Vince. If you want to wrap it up, Vince is the guy you go with.
It's just that I don't want it to be like the fucking Netflix documentary, which
where they tell you nothing.
Where they tell you nothing, like stuff you've already. I'm sure they'll tell you stuff that you've already know already, but at the same time, like it's weird. It's weird because I think like Dark Side's hands are tied because they gave us a whole episode on the steroid trial.
Yep.
Remember? And that in itself is like, okay, well, we could put that as episode 4 in the season of Vince McMahon. We'll rewatch the steroid trial. So yeah.
Yep.
Anyways. All right. Good stuff. I look forward to next week. Ludwig Borger. Actually, I'm very much looking forward to next week. Regarding that particular character. He is a heel who is usually heels are really good people outside the ring and faces. Yeah, but he's a heel in real life. Yeah, you know what I mean. So I'm very much looking forward to that. Heel,
just like Cheeto's haircut. Just like Cheeto's haircut is a heel in real life to me, and that beard.
Goddamn right.
Yeah.
Goddamn right.
You've got the Doctor Strange beard going on there as well.
I know, right? The Cheeto Supreme.
Don't ever say that out loud again.
That sounds like some fucking pizza I want to order.
I'm trying something new.
We'll shave it.
Listen,
shave it. Shave that shit.
No,
and cut your hair.
I'm not doing it. Anyway, wrap it up, Zam. Let's get out of here.
All right. Okay. Keep an eye out here on YouTube. We will be obviously having new reviews coming out during the course of next month, as we're almost at the end of this particular month. Also, don't forget that come Sunday, we'll be 5 hours ahead of America again. So that's going to be great. I guess not. And once again, just subscribe to NerdTube because we've always got something, reviews, discussions, debates, all this sort of stuff coming out, news, as well as a bit of politicking here and there. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to NerdTube, the greatest social media channel you never heard of. Thank you, Cheeto. Thank you, D. Jose. And goodbye, everyone.